Bayern Munich just broke their own record with a 17-year-old most people only recently heard of. Lennart Karl has been on everyone's lips since becoming the youngest Champions League scorer in Bayern Munich history. And if it wasn't for Jamal Musiala's injury or Vincent Kompany's vision, Lennart Karl would have never been known. On July 5, 2025, during Bayern Munich's Club World Cup match against PSG, Jamal Musiala suffered a fibular injury that ruled him out for the season. For Bayern, that moment set everything in motion. Musiala wasn't just another attacking option, he was the reference point. At 21, he represented the modern Bayern attacker, technical, expressive, decisive, and suddenly he was unavailable. Bayern were already short on attacking options. Leroy Sané and Thomas Müller were gone, and they were unwilling to pay the 100 million valuation for Florian Wirtz. So, they did something unprecedented. Kompany ironically found Musiala's replacement in a place that Bayern had for decades been renowned for ignoring: the academy. Bayern's reluctance to integrate academy players into the first-team squad wasn't new to the public, but Kompany quietly introduced Karl as early as last year. He was already training with the first team, was an unused substitute towards the end of last season, and made his professional debut in the Club World Cup. So when news broke that Musiala's injury would rule him out for a long time, it didn't create Lennart Karl, it accelerated him. A door that wasn't meant to be open, yet it did. And for the first time in years, Bayern looked inward for the answer. And what happened next would make the rest of Europe realize why. Long before Lennart Karl entered Bayern Munich's first-team plans, he was already easy to identify. Karl's football didn't begin on pristine pitches or within rigid systems. His football began in futsal, the platform where some of football's wonder kids made their names. It was on the hard courts that he learned the art of manipulating tight spaces and decisions made in fractions of a second. That background shaped the way he sees the game. The awareness, the balance, the comfort of receiving the ball with defenders already close. Those habits stayed with him. When he joined Eintracht Frankfurt's academy, he became better. Frankfurt have built a reputation for developing attackers who think quickly and play forward, and Karl was central to everything happening on the pitch. Frankfurt coaches spoke about the same things again and again. How often he arrived in the right space, how rarely he rushed the decision, how easily he played beyond his age group. By the time Bayern signed him in 2022, Karl wasn't viewed as a gamble. He was viewed as a long-term project. Inside the academy, his progression followed a familiar pattern, except he progressed faster than expected and never appeared out of place. During the 2024-25 season, he scored 17 goals and 8 assists in just 9 appearances for the under-17s. He even appeared for the under-19s team on a number of occasions. The same is true at the international level. With Germany's youth teams, Karl played with the same freedom and clarity. 7 goals in 13 games for the under-17s. In October 2024, top-flight clubs such as Real Madrid and Ajax expressed interest in recruiting him. And all these happened when he was only 16 years old, and Bayern started integrating him into the first team's training quietly. No announcements, no marketing. He appeared on benches, traveled with the squads, learning the pace, learning the spaces, learning the standards. And when the moment came for Bayern to trust him publicly, it wasn't because they hoped he might cope. It was because privately, he already had. And Musiala's absence now gives him the perfect opportunity to prove himself. Once Lennart Karl stepped onto the pitch regularly, it became clear Bayern hadn't just filled a gap, they'd unlocked a gem. Karl is left-footed, an attacking midfielder by nature, nominally a number 10, but rarely fixed to one zone. He drifts, he appears, he disappears, and then he reappears exactly where the game begins to tilt. What separates him isn't speed or strength. At 5'6", he's often the smallest player on the pitch, but that doesn't deter him. The ball doesn't move faster than his decisions. He receives on the half-turn, he scans before the pass arrives, then he plays forward almost by instinct. In the final third, Karl dictates without demanding attention. He doesn't slow the game to control it, he accelerates it. The easiest comparison to the way Karl plays? You would say he'd become the next Messi. But more accurately, there's a Müller the way he arrives unmarked. There's an Ozil in the way he sees passing lanes before they exist. And a Schweinsteiger in the authority he carries despite his age. He's not a replica of these guys, he's a hybrid. And yes, it seems insane to make these comparisons, but that's how special he is. Even Vincent Kompany said it clearly.
What he has, and I want to be totally clear on this, what he has is he has goal threat. So every single time when Lenny's on the pitch, he can score a goal, even if he has a bad game.
And if there was a night that confirmed all of it, it came against Arsenal. This wasn't a cameo. He was in the starting 11 against an Arsenal side full of confidence from their performances in the English Premier League. Karl didn't hide among senior players. He dictated tempo, he demanded the ball. He moved Arsenal's midfield with subtle positioning, constantly pulling markers just far enough to open space behind them. And when the moment arrived, he took it.
The ball up to Elise, nice touch in, that's a wonderful goal. So well taken.
Beyond the goal, his first half performance alone against Arsenal was 1 goal, 100% ground duels won, 100% successful long balls, 100% successful dribbles, 92% pass accuracy. At 17, that performance changed everything, especially for those who haven't heard of him. Karl has always been a special player, but to truly understand how special, we need to have a look at his numbers and his performances. He scored his first professional goal against Club Brugge in the Champions League, becoming the club's youngest ever scorer in the competition at 17 years and 242 days old, surpassing the previous record held by Musiala. But that goal wasn't the only record. He also became the youngest ever German player to score in the Champions League. 3 days later, he went one step further, becoming the youngest German player to ever score in the history of the Bundesliga. On 22nd of November, he became the youngest Bayern Munich player to score an assist in a single Bundesliga match. And a month later in December, he netted a goal in a 3-1 victory against Sporting Lisbon, becoming the youngest player ever to score in 3 consecutive Champions League matches. The previous record holder for this? None other than Kylian Mbappe himself. All these milestones before he even turned 18. At Bayern, records matter, not because they guarantee greatness, but because of how difficult they are to touch. This club doesn't hand out European minutes lightly. To break history here, you don't just need talent, you need trust. And that trust was already visible in those who surrounded him. Michael Ballack, one of the defining midfielders of his generation, now represents Karl as his agent. Not as a marketing move, but as guidance. He now has someone who understands what elite expectations do to young players. And inside the club, the tone is just as telling. Former players and analysts spoke highly about the Wonder Kid. Dietmar Hamann described him as irreplaceable, not in the abstract, but in the way his presence changes Bayern's attacking structure. A bold statement considering the names already in that squad. Yet, even amid the praise, the messaging has remained consistent. Vincent Kompany hasn't rushed him. He hasn't framed him as a savior. He's spoken instead about time, about consistency.
And now the next steps for him is to be consistent, have more good games and more often. And for this he needs time, and then everything will be okay.
Here's the part nobody wants to hear. While we spend our time comparing him to Messi or labeling him the heir to the German throne, we might be building the very pedestal that crushes him. We've been here before. Remember Bojan Krkic? He broke Messi's youth records at Barcelona, only to reveal years later that the panic attacks brought on by the next Messi tag nearly ended his career before it began. Remember Renato Sanchez? The Portuguese arrived at Bayern as the golden boy, but suffocated under the weight of expectation. In football, hype is a double-edged sword. It brings sponsorships and the fame, but it also removes the one thing a 17-year-old needs to actually become world-class: the right to fail.
There's your job and my job. Your job, you will make him really big now. And you will hype him up because it's normal, it's a young player, German player. But I really, really believe in development. And development means that a young player will sometimes not play well.
The greatest achievements of players like Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo weren't defined by one season or one run of goals, but the ability to maintain this level for over 10 to 15 years. That's the standard Lennart Karl now stands next to. He's broken records, he's earned recognition, and he's done it without being rushed, inflated, or overexposed. This isn't a story about replacing Musiala, and it isn't a story about breaking records. It's a story about what happens when opportunity meets preparation at the highest level. Bayern have found their spark, but now they have to keep it from burning out. Because the question is no longer if he'll be a star, but how Lennart Karl will redefine what's possible for a player at the highest level.